Hi everyone, Nick from the DAE here. I am the organizer for the Dungeons and Dragons Club. You'll often hear me or see me running around doing odds and ends, but today I am going to show you, or rather demonstrate, some of the basics of how D&D works. We're going to start off with some simple examples and build our way up, so it kind of clears up some of the confusion. Just a couple quick caveats. I'm not going to be doing a whole series on how the game works or some of the more intricate rules and all that kind of stuff. Some of that should be discovered on your own through either reading the books or experiencing it during a play. But at the very least, I wanted to clear up some of the confusion because the rule book is pretty specific, and there's a lot of reading to do, and sometimes you just want to jump in and have fun. So hopefully this will at least clear up the confusion and get you started. So here I've got a character pulled up on D&D Beyond, which is an online tool. I will introduce D&D Beyond in a separate set of videos for creating a character if you want to go that route. But it's a very good tool to use if you want to quickly create a character or if you have a lot of things to track. I definitely encourage you to check it out. In any event, I have a character here that I use for playtesting. His name is Grum Grum. He is a half-orc cleric of level 5, and Grum Grum is going to help us go over some of the details for how D&D works. So we're going to start off simple, and let's tell a little story here. Let's say Grum Grum wants to go on an adventure. He's heard the call of the road, he's ready to go, he packs up his stuff, grabs all his gear, gets some gold in his pocket, and he's away. But later along in the adventure, he comes across a densely wooded forest, and he needs to, he comes upon a boulder in the middle of a dense forest, and it's blocking the only path. Now, the forest, according to the DM, is very thick, and there's a bunch of trees knotted together. It's probably going to be very hard to navigate through the forest. So, as the player, I can decide what to do with this. And I decide personally that I want to try and move this boulder. Now, before I roll anything, what happens at this point is the DM has told us where we are and what's going on in the scenario. I, as the player, have decided I want to try and move this boulder. So what the DM is going to do, he's going to tell me to roll a d20. The d20, or a 20-sided die, is the primary die that we use when deciding what happens in the game. We can roll the die, and then we get a number from that. So I'm using D&D Beyond's dice roller. So I rolled a 2. That's not particularly high. So when the player rolls that die, that is compared against a target number, often called a difficulty check, that the DM creates. So just to give you a little behind the scenes footage here, so to speak, if I were a DM, I would say moving a boulder is pretty tough, so I would rate it at a 15, maybe a 20. Let's say maybe it's a smaller boulder, it's just sort of occluding the path. So I'll put the DC at a 17. And my job as the player is to see if I beat that. Now, the DM will often not tell you what the difficulty is. That is part of the game and trying to figure out how tough something is. So they'll often tell you if you just fail or succeed. But let's say now I'm ready to try and do this for real. So I'm going to tell the DM, hey DM, I want to try and see if I can move this boulder. The DM says, okay, go ahead and roll. So again, I take my d20, we roll the die, and we see what happens. Okay, so this time it appears I have rolled a 15. And that's pretty good. However, it still does not beat the target number that the DM set up in his head. So he still tells me I fail. And that's the basic mechanic of the game. You essentially tell the DM what you want to do. He comes up with a target number or tells you to do an additional action. You roll a d20 and we see what happens. And this can be a very fun mechanic because it adds a little bit of randomness and uncertainty to your dice rolls. But this is not all there is to the game. If we depended on the d20 entirely, it would feel extremely random. Sometimes that's fun, but there's a little bit more to it than that. So let's actually dive into our character a little bit. I'm not going to go over everything on here, but I want to direct your attention to, as soon as I can zoom in here, there we are. I'm going to clear that. I want to direct your attention to these numbers right over here. I'm going to close this window. These are your character stats. You've got strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. These basically are your physical and mental attributes. How strong you are, how quick, how hardy, how smart, how wise and how likable or charismatic you can be. So Grum Grum is pretty strong. He's not very dexterous. He's pretty hardy. He's not very smart. He's pretty wise, and he's likable. These numbers will vary, but they play into the game. You will see underneath here various different scores. And these scores, in turn, create a modifier. There's a little bit of math behind the scenes here. I'm not going to get into it for the simplicity of this video, but they come into the game. They add a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? These modifiers add a little bit more stability when you're making your rolls. Let's see this in an example. So let's go back to that boulder, and let's assume I haven't made the roll yet. So we go through the scenario again. DM tells me there's a boulder in the way. I say, DM, I want to try and move the boulder. And the DM says, okay, go ahead. And instead of just rolling the dice, he says, give me a strength check. So what I would do in that case is I would roll the d20 and I would add my strength modifier. Now for D&D Beyond, this just means clicking over here, and this will do it for me automatically. Ooh, is that a 1? Yep, that's a 1. So I was going to leave this information out, but apparently the fates don't want me to do so. A 1 means an automatic fail. It doesn't matter what I add to that. So just for the sake of example, we're going to roll again. Okay, so I rolled a 9 this time, and I'm going to add my strength modifier. This gives me my overall value, and that is compared to the target number again. But if we go back to the example, if the score that I have to beat is 17, not that I would know that as the player, I no longer have to roll a 17 or higher on the die. I only have to roll a 15 or higher, because I would roll 15 and then I would add 2. So this is where it's a really cool part of the game, because as you level up your stats, which does happen, your skills, or the checks rather, become a little bit more stable. You'll be more likely to succeed in other areas. And that is the basic mechanic for simple checks. And that's the primary part of the game. So just to give you another example, let's say that Grum Grum is trying to do some math. That sneaky, sneaky math, all right? And maybe he is trying to get his degree in, let's say, I don't know what a cleric would get a degree in. Let's say he has to pass a ritual class for, I was going to say pardoning undead, but that's not the right term. Banishing undead. So if I say, okay, DM, I want to see if I pass my test. He's okay, give me an intelligence roll. Now the problem is I have a -1, so this means I actually subtracted from my score. So I, assuming D&D Beyond cooperates here, I am going to click on intelligence. Oh, I can't see. What did I roll? Oh, I rolled 13, so that's not bad, but I do -1, so that's 12. And again, we would have to compare that to the target number that the DM will only know, but it will then determine how the course of events unfold. And this is a really cool part of the game. Now, there's going to be more specific checks here, and we're going to dive into that in separate videos, but that is the basic mechanic for checks. Hope you enjoyed, and maybe I'll see you in the next video. Bye.